This is Megan Babcock. It's her story to tell, writing Unstuck. I am here with an interview. First, I will introduce myself. I am Amy Colombo, board certified nurse coach, emotional mastery coach for high achieving women. I help you create confidence through emotional mastery, stop holding yourself back, and start living a life that you love. I'm going to now welcome in Megan Babcock. Megan is a board certified nurse coach. She is the host of It's Your Story to Tell podcast and the author of her new book, Unstuck. And we met several months ago. She stood out to me. I could tell she was really walking her talk. And nothing is going to prove that to us more than her talking about what's in here today. So Megan, I'm so excited to have you. And why don't you just start off by sharing a little bit about your story and how you went from becoming a nurse to a nurse coach and now an author?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I love having these conversations, and I believe story is such a powerful way to connect with people. And it also allows people to see, hey, she doesn't have it all together. Like there's a real human behind this. And when I started this journey, I would have never said I was going to be talking about my story. I wouldn't have said in my wildest dreams that I would have a podcast or even be a coach. So my journey to becoming a nurse coach, I started out in the hospital. I've been a nurse for 23 years, but I left the hospital pretty soon after being a nurse. I was in the critical care and I had the opportunity to go into medical device, working with surgeons and cardiologists, placing cardiac devices, pacemakers, defibrillators, heart failure devices. And that led me into a direction in my nursing career that I never even knew existed when I was a nurse going through school. And that really allowed me to learn a lot about business and marketing and sales. And I really did well in that environment because I was a perfectionist, a people pleaser, and a very high achiever. So hitting goals and getting people's approval, and I was just eating it up. And I was exhausted though. But in my personal life, it was also a mess. Like you would never know it. You would think, looking from the outside, she has it together. She has the house, the cars, the trips, the cute little kids all dressed in their matching clothes on Facebook. But that wasn't really what was happening in my life. And I was in a domestic violence marriage. It was my second marriage. So I was the first person in my family to get divorced. So I really did not want a second divorce. I was like, I don't want to be the person who actually hits the record of not just the first divorce, but actually two divorces. And I tried really hard to keep that marriage together. I didn't have good boundaries, and it was not a good situation. And
Mm,
that ended with a domestic violence advocate at my door, along with the Department of Human Services. And um, it was the moment that I had to face the truth of the reality I was living and decide to make some changes. And we'll talk more about that, but made a lot of changes. So that was over 9 years ago. And I did a lot of work in between that time and married again, a healthy marriage, a healthy relationship. And we'll talk about this a little bit in the book, but I dreamed of that marriage, but there was something that was preventing me from having those types of healthy relationships. And that was part of my journey to discovering what was keeping me stuck because I had dreams. I wanted things to be different, but they always continued to just be the same thing. And in that process, well, I got married. Unfortunately, my husband got cancer. The week we got married, he got diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic lymphoma leukemia, and
mm,
we were faced with a bone marrow transplant. So really hard way to start. You're blending family, and also we work together. And so I was picking up a lot of the slack on the work because he couldn't work. Plus, I was taking care of him and all the kids' stuff. And it was a pretty hard time, but we were very fortunate. I believe that in a holistic approach to medicine. And we were so fortunate because my husband's medical oncologist had been a naturopath before. And so because I was like looking up all of these things about how to support him, I started getting Facebook ads for functional medicine for nurses. So that's where I started. I actually am certified as a functional medicine nurse. And after that, Facebook started giving me ads about nurse coaching. And I'm like, what is this? Like, I didn't even know this was a thing. And it just really blends well with my love for personal development. Now it's a healthy love and not the perfectionist, people pleasing, high achieving burnout kind. And so it's just then I had the opportunity, I got laid off from a biotech company. And God just said to me, I've been calling you to do this work. Are you going to listen? Are you going to move forward in it? And I was like, ugh. I knew he was calling me, but I was just kept making excuses, and I make too much money and starting a business. I know how hard it is. Like, that's not what I really want to do. But I knew that it was what I was being called to do. And so instead of going to find another job, I did start my practice. So I had already was seeing people kind of after I went through the Nurse Coach Collective program. And so I just started developing that a little bit more, and eventually in April of 23 launched It's Your Story to Tell. And by August, I had a couple other coaches on the practice with me. There's now, I think, 5 of us. And it's so cool because we all have different stories. We all have different areas that can help people. And that was something that was so important to me, is having a variety of different people with backgrounds and stories so there's something for everyone. And I started my podcast, which I was like, I can't believe I'm telling my story, but I did it. And now I get to hold space for other people to tell their story and encourage others in what's possible when we're willing to do the work.
Yeah. Ooh. Okay. There was so much in there. And where you just landed was, I can't believe I'm telling my story. And how did you come to that point, Megan, right? Because you do talk in the book about doing your own work, and your own healing journey is a huge reason why you're here, why you wrote the book, why you're a nurse coach. And you've done lots of different modalities. And just how did you come to that place where you could vulnerably share your story with the world, right? Like, what does it take to get there?
Well, I really felt called. So I knew that it was what I was being asked to do. And I knew it was a place that I was really stuck, because perfectionism and people pleasing does not go very well with sharing your mess. So,
Mm.
but I knew that I was being asked to confront that perfectionism and people pleasing and just be honest and vulnerable, not just for others, but that it was going to be a major step in my own journey and my own healing. And so when I remember my first episode went live at the end of April, and I had spent so much time, I was writing my story, and my story encompasses so many other people's story too. My kids, my parents, my exes, like, and I just wanted to be respectful to everybody involved, because while they played a role in the story, I didn't blame them for where I was at. And so I had been trying so hard to figure out, how am I going to do this right? And the day before the podcast, I just felt the Holy Spirit tell me to tear up all of that writing and that just sit there. And my friend who knew my story was asking me questions and just say, what was the first thing that came to my mind? Because that was what needed to be said. And it was a big leap of faith. At least it wasn't live. I would never have done live back then. But it turned out so amazing. And when my
Mhm.
family listened to it, they felt good about it. And that was a big thing for me too, is just that I wanted to be honoring in the work that I was doing. And then my second episode is absolutely by far my favorite episode because I did it with my son. And at the time he was 21, now he's 23, has his own excavation company, he's engaged. But we had a struggle in our relationship, and there were things that, because hurt people, but healed people heal people. And we talked openly about how I had not dealt with things from my past, and it was influencing how I was showing up in all my relationships, but specifically how I parented with such fear and anxiety and control, and how that impacted him, and then where we're at now. And so I
Mm.
just see so much power in being willing to share our story. And one of the reasons that is so important to me is because when that domestic abuse advocate, Julia, who she's one of the women that I have dedicated this book to, um, is she came willing to share her story, and she made me feel safe, and she allowed me to see there was hope. And so that is kind of the mission behind all of the work that I do now, is to be able to shine light into dark places in my own life, because this journey is never done. Like, that's the thing, is when
Mm.
we're doing this work, there's always going to be opportunity for new levels of healing and growth. But it's what inspired all of the things that I'm doing, is that someone would be willing to share their story and come alongside of me and help me find a way out. Um, that I'm just so forever grateful, because that was really did change the trajectory of my life.
Mm. Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you did as well, and that you're helping others to get unstuck. So let's talk about that title, Unstuck. I know titles to books are very significant, they're very meaningful. And in the coaching world, we throw stuck and unstuck around a lot, but can you tell us what it means to be stuck and what that maybe like looks like for you, for some of your clients, for different people, and how does one get unstuck?
So let's start with the stuck part. So
Hmm.
I was stuck in a life that I didn't love. It was
Mm.
I was doing all the things, having success in what the world thinks is success, but I didn't feel joyful. I didn't feel fulfilled in my life. I was burnout, overwhelmed, exhausted, but I didn't know how to get off the hamster wheel. So I was stuck. I was moving, but I wasn't moving in a direction that I was enjoying or wanted to be in. And I had dreams. So I think there's two parts. It's like you're in a place that you don't want to be, and you're
Mm.
dreaming of more. You recognize, like, I had this dream to have this amazing relationship, or I want to feel like the work that I do matters, but I'm not there, right? So we have where we're at and where we want to be. And when you're not taking those steps and moving forward and getting closer to the life that you love, then you're stuck. And being stuck can come from so many different places. And so in the book, the first 4 chapters are really about exploring what might be contributing to you being stuck. And so for me, I had a lot of trauma in my life, but I didn't ever recognize it as trauma. If you had said, do you have trauma? No. Trauma is like people in third worlds, it's war, it's PTSD, but I didn't see what happened to me as keeping me stuck. And
Mhm.
so, and my work that I was doing with Julia, I was really trying to uncover what was it that was keeping me stuck. And so most of the time, there is a limiting belief. There's something that you agreed with that is keeping you stuck. So in my story, at 16, I was raped and I did not tell anybody. I didn't ask for
Mhm.
help. I was I felt I had been disobedient because I had gone someplace that I wasn't supposed to. And I accepted that as a consequence of doing something wrong,
Yeah.
right? So I had always just said, well, that's what you get when you don't do the right thing. Like Adam and Eve, they sinned. Guess what? Kicked out of the garden. There's consequences to the things that we do. I never saw the love and the desire for restoration or any of that piece. It was just the judgmental side of God and religion. And that was keeping me stuck. And
Mm.
as I explored it more, what came to me in one of the sessions that I was doing some work was that in that moment of the abuse, I had said, I will never have a good husband.
Mm.
Because I believed like I wanted to save myself for marriage and be pure and all of these things that were values of my family and the church. And because of that incident, I believed I didn't have value anymore. I would have never said that to you. I was a very outgoing. I was very well liked by people, very well spoken. You wouldn't have thought I had low self-esteem or didn't value myself. It would honestly be probably the other way around. Most people were surprised because I was able to mask it so well that I had even fooled myself. And
Mm.
so it was recognizing that in that moment, I partnered with a lie. I still had value. I could still have the husband that I dreamed of. And so then it was the work of reprogramming my mind and the neural pathways to
Mm.
believe something different, which doesn't happen overnight, but it happens actually pretty quickly. I was actually talking about this not too long ago with my sister, how from the time of my divorce and the work that I was doing to the time I was remarried was around 2 years. But it was fast as I started to say, I don't want that anymore. Like, I want to do something different. And so in the book, it helps to kind of think about family dynamics, religious dynamics, social dynamics that play into our story. Um,
Yeah.
Kind of identifying some of the ways you show up. Are you the people pleaser? Are you the perfectionist? Are you the like keep it all together? To kind of help you evaluate your way of showing up. And then you can start getting curious to see, is that working for you? I mean, if it's working for you and you're happy and you're satisfied, then that's great. If not, then you do have the power to do something different. And so then the last 8 chapters are really about making those changes, taking those steps, working towards your dream life and what is going to bring you the most joy and fulfillment. because I believe our dreams are so important because they are like who you were created to be. And so
Mm,
when we can start making steps towards that, then we can feel so much better and really enjoy the life that we have. And a lot of the work throughout the book. So in every chapter, there's reading and then there's actual exercises. It's like a coach in a book. If you're not ready to like sit with a coach and work through some things, or you feel like coaching, you can't afford it. That's one of the things like that I'm very passionate about is making this accessible for all people. So It's Your Story to Tell is now a nonprofit. But the book allows you to kind of walk through these things on your own, with your own support and your own space. But it also teaches you skills to increase your capacity because most of us are avoiding the things that are keeping us stuck and triggering us and just pushing them down and continuing to go. And the only way forward is to get curious about those things.
mm, yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So much in there. And oh, I, I, I could comment on so many things that you've said, but I really hope that people just got the message that there is hope and that I think when we think of healing and spirituality and like what you went through when you talk about that whole life of the lie that you were living due to this trauma, the thing that comes to my mind is we don't know what we don't know. So I think so many people don't even know that they can make a change, don't know that healing, that forgiveness is available to them because they're outsourcing it to someone else.
Mhm.
And what I really heard you say, Megan, was that you took this radical responsibility for your own healing, for your own forgiveness, right? Like no one, right? Because we can't turn back the clock. We can't undo what has happened to us. But something that I say all the time is that forget waiting for the apology, forget waiting for them to say, I'm sorry. It's like we need to forgive ourselves for what they did to us. We need to say, I'm sorry to me, to you. Like, I'm so sorry, right? Like, Megan, I'm so sorry that happened to you, right? Like, when we
Mhm.
think of, and there was so much in there too as to spirituality. And I think where the question I want to ask you is, how does one go from believing God is kind of like condemning them, right? Or believing that I'm screwed or I'm condemned because I screwed up in this major way and these are like the consequences. How does one go from that to really opening up to forgiveness and healing
Mhm.
and seeing God as loving them again, right? Like, kind of, how does one go from here to there? And what did that maybe entail for you? And like, yeah, I'm just so curious about that.
So it's such a good question. And honestly, it was when I came to the end of myself. Like I was so desperate because I had been trying to keep it all together. I honestly did not trust God because something bad happened to me. And where were you, right? That's a question that we're always asking. We're in a world with a lot wrong, right? And people hurting people and cancer and all of these things. But I was so desperate, honestly, not wanting to live, but I had three children that
Mm,
I love and adore. And that was just like, there's no option, thank God.
mm,
That But I was just like, okay, I'm done. Like, I'll do anything. And in that moment, I just felt God's presence. I felt, honestly, it was like, I kind of chuckle about it now, where I felt like He was like, finally, you're ready to like rest in me. Like, you don't have to do this alone. What you believed is not who I am. Like, there were so
mm,
many things. And I just started to get honest with how I was feeling. Like I never felt I could express myself in my family of origin, in my relationships. And so I never was honest with God. Well, God knows everything. And so you can't really keep it from him, but he wants to have a relationship, just like a person. And so one of the first times I was so angry with God, I was driving
Mm,
home from I was totally immersed myself into different self-help type groups and healing work and group work, which I love group work for these kind of things because it's so powerful when other people can witness, that pain alongside of you. Because I didn't even know how to have self-compassion or say,
mm,
Megan, I'm so sorry that happened to you.
right.
Because I was stuck in criticism, judgment, really a lot of self-hatred. And I was driving home and I was just like, God, you said in your word, like, if it's in your word and I ask for it, you're going to give it to me. That's my interpretation of scripture. And I'm like, marriage is in line with, your design for us. You don't like divorce. Like divorce causes so much pain. Like, and I was just angry with God. And I was like, "Ooh, am I going to get like struck down? Like, where's the lightning coming from next?" But that's not what happened. I heard, "I am not an abusive God." And I was like, "What does that mean?"
Mm,
So this is curiosity, right? When you have, whether you think it's God, whether it's the universe, whether it is like your intuition, right?
mhm,
That there is something that's speaking to you. We as humans silence it so much to where sometimes it gets so hard to hear. But when I heard that and I was just like, okay, well, what does that mean? And he said, well, if I were to force your husband to choose your marriage, I would be taking his free will away. And
mm,
that's all abuse is taking someone else's free will.
mm.
And I was
Wow.
like, whoa. And then he showed me that I was doing the same thing because I, as a codependent and trying to fix it and put it, get him to do what I wanted him to do, I would manipulate the circumstances or plead with him to get him to go to the counseling. But that's not what he wanted. That's not the life he was demonstrating that he was fighting for. And so I needed to let him be who he wanted to be as well. And so that is when I was like, wow, like I don't want to be an abusive person, but I can see how unknowingly, unintentionally, I thought I had good intention and motives, but it was not respecting someone else's boundaries and it wasn't respecting even my own boundaries and what I needed. And that
Mm,
started to change a lot of things for me to see God differently because when I could stop seeing him as an abusive, controlling God, it started to change everything that I could maybe trust him, that I could open up, that I could be honest, that he already knew my feelings and emotions and he didn't shame me for those.
mm. Okay. So much in there. So much in there. Um, but that is just so beautiful. And it's really you coming to that end of your rope, like saying no more in your own language and surrendering. And it's in that
Mhm.
moment of surrender that we realize how I think what's keeping us stuck, what's causing so much suffering is a lot of times, as much as it's sabotaging us, is this sneaky way of keeping the control, right? Because if it's my fault, if I make everything my fault and it's causing me all this suffering, it's still my fault, right? Like that little girl or that younger version of you that went in
Mhm.
and had that trauma happen, it's my fault, right? It's
Mhm.
it's like this odd way of blaming, shaming, and criticizing that actually is giving us, I think we always have to look for that sneaky benefit of like this way to control. And what I heard is you just being really honest with yourself and with God. And I want to just speak speak to, I think, where people get really tripped up is, and something I would say is that God can handle your anger. He made us with all the emotions, and anger is an emotion. And it's just like in a regular relationship, if we're harboring silent anger, it turns into resentment. And it's
Mhm.
this silent brick wall between you and this other person. Nothing disconnects us more than resentment. So we could be doing that with God, with the Almighty Creator, and harboring resentment for Him. And when we finally are able to give Him our anger, it's amazing how connected we can then feel to that God or that person or even ourselves when we're finally willing to go there. Really powerful, Megan. It's really a testament. I really knew there was something amazing when I connected with you, but even hearing your story at this level is making me see just, how much responsibility you've taken for yourself. Even hearing you talk about, your part in the codependency, because a lot of times we can fall into those binaries of, you're the villain and I'm the victim, or vice versa. But it's never that black and white. There's always so much in between. So where I think I want to take us to at this point is, um, due to time constraints, anyone that decides to come in and read your book, um, kind of just tell us who you wrote this book for and what you really hope, like maybe like the three main takeaways that they will get out of it.
So I wrote the book for the person who's wanting more, but they're not sure how to get there. And so it's designed to kind of walk you through a path to understanding yourself. I think, the first thing is we need to be self-aware, right? And take that personal responsibility. That's where the book starts, is being able to
Mm,
take that initiative in your life. I spent so many years being a victim. And so when you are a victim, there's no power to change. But when I was able to see that, like, if I don't like this, I can do something different. And I just started doing different things. And so, one is taking that personal responsibility and self awareness. Two would be that there's not a one size fits all to healing or doing this work. And so, in the book, I expose people to neuroscience,
mm,
spirituality, dialectical behavior skills that help to increase your capacity, mindfulness, all of these different tapping. I've worked with you in tapping and saw like the benefit of being able to go and face some really hard things and preparing myself ahead of time. Like somatic work. So there's all of these different, they're like little bits of exposure to it so that people can say, oh, that actually helped me. Let me learn more. Let me find someone with that expertise. Because I think for so long I thought, oh, counseling was the only way. Like I had been in counseling for so many years and not moving anywhere until I had a domestic abuse advocate who was sharing her story, sharing skills, doing like work to help me understand my values and what is it that I even want in my life? Because I wouldn't be able to tell you. I wanted what anybody wanted me to do. That's what I thought I wanted. So,
right.
exposure to many different things. And then I guess the third thing would be that you are never too far gone. Like, not in your parenting, not in your marriage, not in your dreams for a specific career or life. And that if that is something that is deep inside of you and you feel called to it, and it's the thing that comes up and sometimes even gets you to keep going, that actually can be your life if you're willing to get curious about what it is that has you stuck and specifically like what are you triggered over, right? Because those triggers They are really hard when they come up, but they have just as much goals as there is, the pain. The important thing is that you feel supported when you're doing that triggered work. So that's why being with a coach or having a counselor or being in a small group that is supportive as you're navigating this, because you're going to need to learn new skills that you didn't have, right? Because the trigger comes up and we move into avoidance or masking, trying to run from that discomfort. And when I learned that the quickest way is to confront the pain, I was like, it was counterintuitive because I thought if I look at this pain, I don't think I'm going to be able to get out of bed. Like, I'm not going to be able to keep caring for my kids. But when in reality, not looking at it was destroying me. It was harming my kids and it was making my life miserable. So it was so worth it to start there because it is the first, like your body makes you aware of it. And so when that trigger comes up, there's something here that's not in alignment. And then as you start to get curious about it, one, you start to calm because you are allowing yourself to feel and experience it instead of dismissing yourself. And honestly, when you do that, you're abusing yourself. Like you're telling
Mm.
yourself, like, you're not worth this. Like, I'm not going to listen to you. And so when you start to listen to yourself, you start to create safety with yourself, which then empowers you to be able to do the work of boundaries and all the other things that have to like flow out of the healing work.
Yeah. Ugh, that is so good. And I hope that anyone listening that is experiencing being stuck or feeling triggered all the time, because Megan, I resonate a lot with your story on different levels. And I remember how I felt like it was every day, it was all day long. Like, it was now, and when I think of that now, I think, wow, how far I've come because now I get triggered. But back then, when you're first coming to that point of like you can't take it anymore, it just feels like it's like your whole life is like this constant go, go, go. And it's like I know for me, it had this underlying feeling of like just like anger. And to do trigger work, like you said, to dive in how counterintuitive. I think most of healing is
Mhm.
counterintuitive. It's like we need to learn to love the things we hate. We need to go through it. We can't go around it. And we need to feel it to heal it. And like you said, I think everyone has those same fears. Like either I'm going to get stuck in it, I'm not going to be able to function, or I'm going to go crazy. And what we're really avoiding, right, with the perfectionism, the pleasing, the chronic state of like go, 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 is we're really avoiding feeling that. We're avoiding dropping in and feeling the pain and the grief. And um, I want to just say for anyone listening or watching is I promise you, you're not going to get stuck in it. I promise you, you can move through it. And what awaits you on the other side um, is pretty amazing, and you're not going to feel like happy, happy, joy, joy, but you're going to feel lighter in your body. You're going to feel more neutral. I always say, like, we underestimate the power of neutrality in our bodies, like feeling neutral, just feeling like okayness,
Present. Yeah. Being
presence.
able to be present, because when you're in that
Mm,
constant state of avoidance, then you are missing out. So not only are you avoiding the pain, but you're actually missing out on all the joy, all the peace, all the
yes,
love, right? Because um, you
I
have to
love that.
feel to be able to get the benefit. And my life has not gotten easier. I've had some of the hardest 2 years since going and doing this work and facing like really hard things. And yet I am centered and I am grounded and I have the skills. Like there's days that I'll still get anxious or I'll want to control something. And then I recognize it and I can say, no, I know what that did for my life. This is what I'm choosing because as you all know, I love Jesus and I'm, spiritual in that way. And I believe that the enemy wants to keep you stuck because he knows that you have so much power and that you were created for amazing things. And so he's always there to kill, steal, and destroy because then not only does he impact you, but you are a ripple effect into your family, into your community, and to this world. And so it's all about learning to lead well. My next book is going to be learning how to lead others well. And when you go from being able to lead yourself to being able to do this work with others, and we all have that ability in us. I don't think it's just coaches, but you can make a difference in your legacy for your family and for what you want to be remembered for by doing this work. It's the door to more.
Hmm. Awesome. So this is for anyone who wants more in their life and is ready to open up to their purpose and the door for more. And Megan, just let everyone know how they can connect with you, how they can reach out to you, what you've got going on, get your book, all the things.
So you can find everything on itsyourstorytotell.com. And you'll find there's different coaches. I have an entire free resource library of things that you could do today to take a step in your healing. I have a quiz so you can learn your attachment style. I have devotionals. I have book studies. There's something for everyone. And I just want to challenge you, if you're ready for more, take one step. It doesn't matter what it is, but
Yes.
don't keep doing the same thing over and over. Take some opposite action and do something that you feel really uncomfortable in doing, because that's going to help you to tell your brain you're ready to go. So you can find that on the website. You can connect with my social media on that, different programs and things that I offer for healers who want to go deeper into being prepared for trauma and crisis. I have a program for that. And my podcast, you can find it anywhere. You listen to podcasts on YouTube from my website. And it's really, if you have a story and you're ready to tell it and you want someone to support you in that. I love working with people who have never done a podcast before and are ready to start stepping out and using their story. And so reach out. I'd love to have a conversation about that as well.
Yeah. I just want to say I like the titles you pick. I love the title of the book and I love the title of your podcast. Just like really good titles. It's your story to
Totally
tell.
got inspired. When I heard It's Your Story to Tell, I was like, there's no way that's available. Well, turns out God does know everything because it was available as a URL. I was able to trademark it. Like, it's crazy. So listen
So
to that inner
awesome.
knowing and that wisdom because it's wanting to show you the way forward.
Yes, I love that. Yes. And thank you so much, Megan, for having this conversation. And I would love to have you back so that we could really dive into triggers. Triggers is just, and my audience knows it's something I talk about a lot. It's a big part of the work that I do with clients. And I always say there's no greater healing opportunity. If you're willing to work with your own triggers, you can literally, I feel like, catapult your healing because you don't realize how much access you have to what's inside in that moment. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. And I just want to end by saying thanks for being here with us. Let me see if there are any questions. Hang on one second. Okay. Okay, here we go. Let's see. All right, we've got some people here with us. We don't have any questions, but just letting you guys know if you want to leave questions or comments, we will be checking back. And for anyone that's been listening and is curious about inner child work specifically, which is one of the modalities that Megan is very familiar with, that I do, I'm having an inner child healing workshop in a couple weeks, September 19 to 21. It's a full deep dive weekend where I take you through a process in a group. And basically, in short, it's kind of like all the way from introduction and connection to deeper layers of healing, and then setting you up to move forward and live your best life forward with that inner child along for the ride. Because guess what? She is the most vulnerable part of you, and she is your responsibility. And she's just like waiting for you. Like no one else can heal her. No one else has what she needs but you. And when you learn to give yourself that, when you learn to give that vulnerable part of yourself the love and the nurture and the validation that she's been thinking someone else is responsible for, your whole life changes. So I'm going to put all the information for Megan and her offerings in the description, as well as for my inner child healing workshop. There are still spots left. And thanks for hanging out with us, everybody.
Thank you for having me. It's so fun having these conversations, and I look forward to many more.
All right. Bye.
Bye.